The nightmare scenario for the Wizards occurred. It became a reality. How did the Wizards fall to 6? Next on Locked On Wizards.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello all, and welcome into Locked On Wizards, where myself and Abdullah Ayubi cheer you up about the NBA draft lottery or sympathize with you, probably both, and tell you about the potential newest Wizards that could be donning the red, white, and blue. I'm Leif, Tulin, a credentialed NBA draft analyst, attendee of the last two NBA combines, host of Locked On NBA Big Board, and beside me is Abdullah Ayubi, a diehard Wizards fan, here to provide you guys hometown insights and passion for his beloved Wizards, who, quite frankly, are going through a tough one today. And thank you guys for making Locked On Wizards your first listen each and every day. And remember, Locked On Wizards is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube at Locked On Wizards, where the best way to help us grow is to comment anything below. And today's question is, who do you want to draft at number 6? I know we wanted to say, who do you want at 1 or 2, but it is 6. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So let's dive right in. Abdullah, we're going to be talking about what happened when the lottery was revealed, who's there at 6, and how on earth did this lottery happen. But frankly, the first thing I want to ask is, how you doing?
It's a mix of emotions. I think it really does suck, because at the end of the day, the Wizards second worst team in the NBA record wise, and to end with the 6th pick. I mean, I fell to my knees as if a nightmare actually came true, and it's frustrating. It really is frustrating, because again, another year where I get it, you get the second overall pick last year, but this year's draft class, a lot of talent, and I thought Cooper Flag was going to be there. And worst case scenario, you fall 2 or 3, but going past 4, 5. I mean, come on, man, like. It's really frustrating. And again, it's so easy for me to say I don't like this lottery system because my team got the short end of the stick. But come on, man. Like, if I'm Adam Silver, and I know they give the Mavericks the first pick, they traded Nico Harrison, traded Luka Doncic, and now he has Cooper Flag, So for me, it's a mix of emotions. But the fact that you fall out of the top 3, it's just, to me, it's absurd. And I'm frustrated as a Wizards fan. Like, how does this happen? Again, a year where the second worst team in the NBA doesn't get a top 4 pick. Are you kidding me?
Well, it's not only the Wizards that were hosed in that situation. Not the Utah Jazz were number 5, and they had a 14% chance. The Wizards had 14% chance, fell to 6. And then you look at number 3, the Hornets at number 4. But then you look at number 4, the Pelicans fell too. So not a single team that had a top 3 chance, which is even at 14% to get number 1, ended up within the top 3. That's very, very difficult to happen. And to make matters worse, like you mentioned, the popular point is Nico Harrison traded Luka Doncic, and now he's gotten a get-out-of-jail-free card because they get Cooper Flag. But they went up 10 spots, and in order to make it 10 rather than 11 spots, they won a tiebreaker with the Bulls, who also went 39-43. But a 39-win team shouldn't be drafting number 1. And that's the biggest frustration. Then the San Antonio Spurs, that would have been crazy if they went number 1, getting Wembanyama and Flag.
If that happened, I actually would have lost my mind if they paired Wemby and Flag together.
I would have preferred that over the Mavericks getting a get-out-of-jail-free card. But the Spurs, nonetheless, went up 6 spots to get to 2. And then the 76ers saved their tails by going from a super underachieving season and going 24-58 when they were supposed to be contending, and they would have lost their pick if they fell to 7th or lower, and instead they're a top 3 pick. Whereas the Charlotte Hornets fall 1 spot, the Jazz fall 4, the Wizards fall 4, and the Pelicans fall 3 to round out 4 through 7. So the lottery, I mean, the Wizards fall to 6, but they weren't the only casualty. And as for the Wizards, I think if there's any solace, is the Wizards have been bad for a while, and this is the year that you think you could get out of it, but they at least last year did well in the lottery. And if you look at some of the recent history and what it says that if you have enough cracks at the bat, that you have a chance to get out of there, the promised land. Like the Pistons, the last 2 years had the 5th pick overall, taking Jaden Ivey and Ron Holland. But they were the worst team in basketball those years. But luckily, in one of the previous years, they got Cade Cunningham, and Cade Cunningham took them to the promised land, which was the playoffs. They didn't win the series, but it was the playoffs. I think the Wizards have had enough cracks at the bat, and if they get a good player here, they may not be in dire straits. Do you agree with that? Even though I'm fully with you in despair mode about not getting Cooper Flag.
Yeah, no, there's still really good talent. You got Derik Queen, Edgecombe, some guard, the big man out of Duke. But it really does suck because at one point I really thought either Flag or one of the guys at Rutgers were wearing a Wizards jersey coming up next season. But it is what it is. I think this Wizards front office had a plan B and they had a plan C. So I think everything's going to go accordingly to plan. And whoever they pick at pick 6, I just hope that a guy that can just contribute down the line for this young team.
Yeah, that's got to be the hope. The other talking point about this lottery and how it went down is none of those top teams got a high pick, but how improbable it is that a team that was 12th in the odds gets it. And this is where we can talk about the lottery. You mentioned how you feel like the lottery needs to be changed because your team did not get a good shake of the stick. But I honestly have felt for a while that the play-in game is kind of hurting basketball because it draws a lot of eyes to it. But the play-in game causes issues in the sense that a team that had 39 wins like the Mavericks, who should have been in the playoffs and got derailed by a bad trade and injuries, can get number one. And they only had a 7 times less likelihood. So they had a 2% chance of getting Cooper Flag, and it happened, 1.8 if you want to be specific. Whereas the Jazz, the Wizards, and the Hornets had a 14%. It should be far more disparate between a 39-win team and an 18-win team in the case of the Wizards, or a 17-win team in the case of the Jazz. So I think the play-in game is kind of causing some issues, and it used to be a more like a 15%, 15 times less likely that a team in 12 would get a chance. And now you're seeing the Hawks do it from the 10 spot and the Mavs do it from the 12. Does the lottery need a shakeup?
Yeah, I think so, man. I'm not saying do what the NFL does and give the worst team the number 1 overall pick, but you gotta again have that gap between 14% and 1.8%. It has to be larger. I'm sorry because again, that's a 20 win discrepancy for me. Like it's frustrating. Again, this Mavericks team, they had Kyrie Irving, Anthony Davis, and they were trying to contend for that playing spot, and now they get the number 1 overall pick when a Wizards team that's been struggling all year, a Jazz team that's been losing a lot of games, they fall 5 and 6. I'm sorry if you're Adam Silver, and I get it. Dallas, a big market team. You know, you had Dirk Nowitzki, and you transition to Luka Doncic, and now you transition to Cooper Flag in a couple of months. To me, it's just it sucks, man. It really does suck, and it draws a lot of eyes to the idea of it. Maybe the lottery is rigged, but why can't it be rigged for our Washington Wizards, man?
The Wizards, the Jazz, and the Hornets certainly are screaming from the hilltops about that. I mean, the odds of all of these teams dropping as far as they did is very small, but it's about a 1% chance. Not only that that the Mavericks get number 1, that was a 1.8% chance, but it was a 0.04% chance that this whole situation of the top 3 went out how it did, and that speaks to how ridiculously improbable this was. I think that's where the comments of it being rigged happened. But last question here before we transition to who's there at 6, who our preferences are, some scouting reports for the Wizards fans. What is the solace for the Wizards knowing that there's more competency thus far in a new front office? Like how differently do you feel this year as opposed to last season? Or sorry, not last season, but last regime.
No, I feel a lot more confident. I think last year you hit on all 3 first-round picks in a weak draft class, considered a weak label draft class. So the fact that you have pick 6 and also you have pick 19, that trade with Memphis. So maybe you could find a way to package something and trade more, up closer to top 15, top 10. It's going to be harder because it's a stronger draft class. But I have full confidence in this team. Again, Will Dawkins knows what he's doing. The trade deadline pickups with VJ Johnson, Colby Jones, like the young guys here, trading Kyle Kuzma when the time was right. Also trading away Bradley Beal, those pick swaps that are going to come. People are not talking about it now, but they're going to talk about it soon. Phoenix, they're in a not really good territory when it comes to their future. But yeah, I have full faith in this front office. And even though the bar was set so low with the previous regime, Will Dawkins has done way better than expected.
He sure has. And there is optimism to be had, not only because the front office is more competent, at least thus far, but also this draft is considered to be night and day, far, far better than last year's draft. like you said, the Wizards did well in that draft. Let's see if they can do so again. We're going to talk about those prospects right on the other side. Everyone in my house always has something going on. I call this busy season. I don't have a lot of time to go grocery shopping or to cook healthy meals at home, but that's why I use Hungry Root. Hungry Root is like having your own personal shopper and nutritionist wrapped into one. They take care of grocery shopping and meal planning, offering personalized recommendations based on your taste and your health goals. I personally love how Hungry Root tailors my orders to based on what I like, and maybe more importantly, what I didn't like. It gets smarter every time and eliminates the ones I don't like and replaces it with the ones I absolutely adore. With their high quality, nutritious food, you can stick to your gut friendly, high protein diet without spending hours planning those meals. And the meals come together in just about 15 minutes or less, giving you more time for your workouts or time to watch your Washington Wizards. So, what are you guys waiting for? Take advantage of this exclusive deal. Get 40% off your first box, plus a free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA and use code LockedOnNBA. That's hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA, code LockedOnNBA for 40% off and a lifetime free item. Also, have you guys ever checked your bank account and wondered, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you can stop managing so you can stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan your long-term goals. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use code LockedOnNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off that on your first year. That's monarchmoney.com and code LockedOnNBA for half off your first year. All righty, welcome back to Locked On Wizards. I'm Leif Tulin, joined by Abdullah Ayubi. And yeah, it's a bit of a somber tone tonight because the Washington Wizards fell to number 6. But we talked about this right before the break. The Wizards have a front office that there is competency. We're getting 3 steals. And I would even consider Sarr a steal because I think Sarr is better than Ricochet at this point. So they got a guy at number 2 that could have gone number 1. And you at least get great value there. You get Keyshawn George, you got Bub Carrington. That's a great track record in a bad draft. Now, what can they get in what's considered a very good draft, starting with what they can get at number 6? So who's your favorite there at number 6, Abdullah?
Yeah, so it's a combination of guys. For me, I think Tre Johnson. He's a guy that's the name that's been thrown out there for me. I think he's really, really good and has potential to be good, really good offensively for his Wizards team. I think bringing the kid from the DMV, UMD stud, 6'10", Derik Queen, pair him up with Alex Sarr. I think they could be a really good front court offensively and defensively. I think those two guys, and the big man out of Duke, I keep forgetting how to
watch.
Yeah, he's a big man who can definitely be a rim protector. And it'll be interesting to see if they go for him and how they would pair him with Sarr, maybe push Sarr to the 4. Also, VJ Edgecombe. I don't know if he's going to be there at 6. So these are just some names out there that I'm throwing out, but I think outside of, obviously there's a gap between the 3 with Flag, Harper, and Bailey, but there's still some talent out there at 6 that you can grab and definitely can be a contributor going into this tenure of this young movement here in DC.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting to see how the picks after even Flag and Harper go, because the Wizards are going to be the beneficiaries of the eye of the beholder from the likes of who are the Charlotte Hornets going to take? Who at number 3 are some of these teams going to take and think most commonly will be there? Will the 76ers, who are probably in win now mode despite winning just 24 games this past season, are they going to take a guy like Ace Bailey, who's not fully developed but does have those offensive traits? Or are they more inclined to take a guy who's uber athletic like VJ Edgecombe? That could happen. Could Common Malawach, who there's a viral clip of him hitting 14 straight threes and he measured in at 7'1" barefoot. Does that move the needle? So I do think the Wizards are going to be having a lot of their choices made for them by who goes before, but it doesn't mean that there's going to be a barren cupboard. So let's dive into a couple of these guys. Let's start with Derik Queen from Maryland. Like you said, hometown kid. He's a DMV guy, went to Montverde, played alongside Cooper Flagg and Liam McNeely, a couple of these guys in the NBA draft, went to Maryland, led them to the Sweet 16, hit a big-time game winner. He's a dancing bear offensively. He's got, he's not prototypical athleticism as a big and a rim protector, but what he lacks in rim protection, he has in scoring touch and prowess as a offensive hub. He's a guy that I thought helped himself with the combine measurements. He measured in, it's taller than many thought, measuring over 6'9" with a long wingspan and measuring with solid girth. I know that sometimes is made as a negative, as he's overweight. No, I think with that height weight ratio and length, I thought he measured in well. He's a very talented player, and I think the Wizards do have a infrastructure to support a guy who could, maybe not be great defensively, but could be the offensive hub because they have Alex Sarr who can play the 4 or the 5, because they have guys like Bub Carrington, Bilal Coulibaly, who have differentiating skills. Like Bub Carrington could be a pick and roll guy in this league. Bilal Coulibaly is an excellent defender. Washington doesn't have an identity because they don't have the dude. And I think Derik Queen, though he's not Cooper Flagg, could be the dude for the Wizards. And that's probably my number one option if I'm a Wizards evaluator.
Yeah, no, definitely. And again, you pair him up with Alex Sarr. I think you've had a front court that you really haven't seen in so long here in DC. Both guys that can stretch the floor offensively, and hopefully rebounding will get better with those two. But I think definitely you can call them the Twin Towers because they could definitely wreak havoc. But again, I'm more focused on the wing position more than the power forward and center because, again, you have Alex Sarr. You also have Tristan Vucevic, who, when given opportunities this past season, played really good. So I think if you're the Wizards, maybe go after a guy like Tre Johnson. I think for me, he's right now slightly a little over Derik Queen for me if they're available at pick 6. But I'm confident either Queen or Tre Johnson, whoever they go with.
Yeah, so if Tre Johnson's best case scenario, I'm all aboard on that. For those of you who don't know, Tre Johnson was the SEC Freshman of the Year and what was considered the best SEC ever, getting 14 teams in the NCAA tournament. He scored over 20 a game as an SEC freshman. He's someone who can really score the ball, both with the ball in his hands, is a very good shooter, shot well off the catch, shot well off the dribble, ran a ton of pick and rolls with a team without spacing. I think will benefit greatly from spacing in the NBA, and I think he could be the guy, like we mentioned for Queen, but in a different way. He could be the guy with the ball in his hands and maybe allow for Bilal Coulibaly and some of these other guys to take less of a role in which where they're supposed to score, but maybe be complementary and use what their superpowers are on the floor as a defensive wing in Coulibaly's case, or in Sarr's case, use his versatility and size both as a spacer and as a rim roller. So I think he could play the 4 or the 5. Tre Johnson's the type of guy who can allow that to happen. Would you take VJ Edgecombe? Should he fall? I kind of don't think he will, but personally, on my big board for Locked On NBA big board, I have Tre Johnson number 4 and I have VJ Edgecombe number 6. So I'm with you in this about Tre Johnson. Do you prefer VJ Edgecombe? Should he be available?
Yeah, no, I love Edgecombe's game. I don't know if he's gonna fall to 6, but if he's there, I don't see why not. It's a home run pick for me at pick 6, getting them at that value. But for me right now, just because I just feel like Edgecombe's not gonna drop to 6, I think you gotta go with the Johnson or Queen, in my opinion. And maybe if you're the Wizards and none of those guys are there you like, maybe you trade back from pick 6 and get more draft capital. We all know Will Dawkins loves to acquire as many draft picks as he can, just because it was a common theme in OKC, and I think he wants to replicate that model here in DC.
Well, that's a possibility. Do you think there's any room for trading up?
It's going to be costly because I know last year when they traded up to get Bub Carrington, he gave up Denny Avdia, and a lot of fans were upset about that. It was really shocking. But in this upcoming draft class, it's going to cost more, and maybe have to – I don't know. There was a possibility at one point we used to talk about how maybe give up Jordan Poole. I mean, that's a lot, but maybe if you want to slip into that, maybe top 10, top 7, and come back and get a guy, or you got to pair up pick 19, or maybe you want to trade Corey Kispert, attach him. So I could see a lot of moves, and that's the great thing about the Wizards organization right now is that they're open to a lot of things. There's so many options, there's so many routes that you can go to that even if like today they fall out of the top 3, which I know I'm still upset about, but there's always a plan B and there's always a plan after that. And that's what I love about this Wizards organization. They're always prepared for something like that to happen.
Well, speaking of being prepared for everything, we're going to talk about what some of those possibilities, those contingency plans, the ones that we support the most for the Wizards coming up next, right after this, and a few more breakdowns of potential prospects that the Wizards could be seeing don their uniform. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, player performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. So which players, you might ask yourself, are showing up in the biggest moments, and could you track their trends to help you build the next bet? Could it be Donovan Mitchell and scoring, as he's scoring at will this postseason with numerous 40-point games, and they've got their backs against the wall against the Pacers? That's a direction I would look. And if you got a read on who's heating up, if it's not Donovan Mitchell, why not back it up with a same-game parlay if you think Halliburton might exceed his assist total? Make sure to check those out. How could a $200 bonus and bets add to the excitement if you're just your first $5 bet hits? That's what FanDuel can offer you. So dive in on the action. And if you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets and make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Welcome back to Locked On Wizards. I'm Leif Tulin, joined by Abdullah Ayubi. And like we said at the outset, it's a sad moment because the Wizards fell to the 6. But there are some potential prospects. We talked about the scoring prowess of Tre Johnson, the potential to be an offensive hub of Derik Queen. Let's dive into VJ Edgecombe, who you would say is unlikely to fall to the Wizards, but maybe they would be trading up if he were available at 4 or 5. What do you like about VJ Edgecombe, as you said you're pretty infatuated with his game?
I think defensively, a guy who can definitely be a key contributor there. I think for so long here in DC, we kind of lacked that D in DC, whether it was any type of role player coming in and just dropping 20 to 25 points a night. But again, for this Wizards team, I think a lot of it's just energy, youth movement. That's what I loved about Bub Carrington. That's what I loved about Keyshawn Georges. Even when it was a season where you're not going to make the playoffs, you're barely winning 20, 25 games, you're still going out there and getting in someone's face, and you're still contributing. And it was night and day difference between the first half of the season of last year and the second half, because when you let those veterans go, you trade them. It's all about the youth movement and how they played as a team. And you add a guy like VJ Edgecombe, who can definitely, I think, make an impact in day one. And I think offensively, his game is going to be really good as well. So if he's there, and if you really think he can be that guy and you want him, trade up for him. Why not? We've seen Will Dawkins. He can be aggressive. Like I mentioned, he traded Denny Avdia when a lot of people were shocked about that. And a lot of people love Bub Carrington's game now. So it's kind of like a win-win if you're looking back at the trade. So I can't wait to see what they do. I still think they're going to stay at 6, but I wouldn't be surprised if they, after pick 6, they trade back into that top 10, top 12 range.
Yeah, what I like about VJ Edgecombe is he's an otherworldly athlete. Like, he's the best athlete in this draft, full of excellent athletes. He's a track star type build, jumps out of the gym. The question marks and why he could possibly fall to 6 are he's not necessarily the best showcased dribbler. Like, he doesn't create for himself off of the dribble. He creates off of going straight downhill, attacking, catch and shoot. Instead of shooting, he pump fakes, gets to the rim, and no one wants to step on the trampoline with VJ Edgecombe. VJ Edgecombe had a remarkable Big 12 season after a relatively poor non-conference, and that's why he's a bit divisive in the world of scouts and why he could be there for the Wizards. And if a team like the Wizards or like the Jazz really like him, I wouldn't be stunned to see either team trade up. So speaking of that possibility, I know it would take a haul to trade up, but let's say at 3, Ace Bailey really allures the Wizards front office. And why wouldn't he? He's long, he's athletic. You mentioned yesterday at 2, he would be your preference because you really want to wing and score the ball. What would the package look like that you feel could move the needle and get the Wizards up to number 3? And do you think it's a smart decision to let go of those assets?
Yeah, it's a tough one, man. But if you want to get to 3, you start off with 6, and I think you have to attach Jordan Poole. I think Jordan Poole's trade value is just so high right now that I mean, he's proven that he's gotten way better from how his tenure started in Washington to now. He's proven that he can be a really good point guard in this league at 26, or I think about to turn 26 years old. It's still relatively young. Can definitely be a key contributor on any roster. So I think it would have to be 6 and Jordan Poole. I don't know about pick 19 because that might be a lot, but again, if you have so much faith in a guy like Ace Bailey, who can definitely come in and be that contributor on the wing, maybe so, especially since if Bilal Coulibaly doesn't take that year 3 jump offensively, which a lot of us are hoping to look forward to. So, and if you lose a guy like Jordan Poole, I mean, he's a guy that has been here before the youth movement started, and it was a key reason why the Wizards were relevant in a lot of games last year when he was playing. And you have Bub Carrington given the keys. And now you also you get maybe even if Dylan Harper is if Ace Bailey goes 2 and Dylan Harper's at 3, maybe even that scenario happens. So I don't know, but I feel like for me, just because I'm a big Jordan Poole JP13 fan, it would hurt to see him being traded out of Washington. But if the Wizards organization has so much confidence in that young guy at pick 3, maybe pull the trigger.
Yeah, I don't dislike that idea at all. In fact, I'm a proponent of it, because you got to see what you like and go for it. But that does beg the question. You've got talented young guards, whether it be Poole or Carrington. At 6, does it become more need-based as opposed to best player available? I mentioned yesterday for the everydayers who tune into Locked On Wizards, I talked about how I am very firmly of the belief that when you have a top 5 pick, and I understand the Wizards at 6, that you want a franchise-changing talent, doesn't matter the position, so you go best player available. Does your perspective change about need? Because you mentioned ideally it would be a wing. Ideally Cooper Flagg or Ace Bailey. But at 6, should they stand pat and a guard like Jeremiah Fears is there, who's a point guard, or a guy like Tre Johnson is there, is it more of an alluring idea to bring in a guy like Kamen Malawach, Derik Queen, or Con Knipple, who are wing or bigs in the first 2, and a wing in Con Knipple, because the wings is a less established position for the Wizards at the current moment?
Yeah, no, I think since Snyder at pick 6, because it's so tough, like just differentiating between best player and fit. I think if you're the Wizards right now, you got to change that approach, and I think go with the guy that you think is the best player, obviously. But if this makes sense, try to reach the mark where both intersections hit and intersect, where best player, but also fits that need as well. So whoever it is, whether it's Fears, Tre Johnson, Derik Queen, I'm all in for it. I think you can definitely get a guy, even though it's not a top 3 pick, at pick 6, making being a huge contributor coming day 1 when they are in Washington.
Yeah, that's got to be the hope. Let's end on this. What's your prediction for how the top 5 and then get to your Wizards? And we'll see. We'll turn back on the clock when draft day comes and when we hear more rumors, see what the results in the combine. But what's your right off the cuff? It's frustrating. It happened a couple hours. Who are the Wizards taking, and what happens prior to the Wizards pick?
Yeah, so I think top 3 for sure. I think Flagg, Bailey, Harper off the board. 4 and 5, I think that's where it gets really interesting. I think VJ Edgecombe is going to be off the board as well. That leaves you with pick 5. Fears could be a guy, definitely. The wing out of Duke, Knipple, is that how I pronounce his last name?
Yeah, Con Knipple.
Yeah, Con Knipple. Also the big man out of Duke. I think Derik Queen and Tre Johnson will be there at pick 6. I think it's going to come down to those 2 guys, and I'm all in for it. Like I mentioned, I think I love both of them. So I think that's how it'll go. I think top 3 is a lock. I think 4 and 5 is where it really gets interesting for the Wizards, and it's going to dictate where they're going to go at pick 6.
My guess, if I had to make one for the Wizards, is they get the hometown kid, Derik Queen, because I think that number 4, where the Hornets are drafting, they don't have a position where it's super obvious. I could see them, because they're not thrilled with Mark Williams, go for a guy like Kamen Malawach and shake things up. I could also see them going the conventional wisdom of VJ Edgecombe, and then the Jazz, I think, would be most likely to take Tre Johnson or VJ Edgecombe, whichever one's not at 4, leaving Derik Queen, Kamen Malawach, Con Knipple, and Jeremiah Fears. Derik Queen makes the most sense to me, and I also think has the highest ceiling. So that would be my prediction. We'll know a lot more as the months progress. Just a month, about 6 weeks away from draft day. Frustrating day for the Wizards in this sense, but a lot of restored optimism the last few seasons.
I just want to say, Leif, the Wizards were one number away from Wemby, one number away from Zion, and now the nightmare continues one number away from Cooper Flag. I don't know, man. There's gonna be a day. There's gonna be a day when Adam Silver says, "Hey, man, Davis Stern, we got to give some love to DC." I don't know when that day is gonna be, but it clearly wasn't today.
It certainly wasn't in the favor of the small market teams that are at the bottom of the league. Well, thank you guys for tuning into Locked On Wizards, despite the frustrating result of falling to the number 6 pick. As we said at the beginning, the nightmare became reality. The Wizards fell to 6, but there are good options. We'll be keeping you covered all throughout the weeks and the month leading up to the draft. The combine's happening now. We'll keep you enlightened about who could be a really good pick at number 6 as we learn more, as well as number 19, who could be shining in the combine, and it has nothing to do with the lottery. The Wizards could get a steal there. So we'll keep you covered in all of those facets. Thank you guys, as always, for listening to Locked On Wizards, and thank you for making Locked On Wizards your first listen today. And for your second listen, go check out Locked On NBA Game Night. Every game, every night until an NBA champion is crowned. Get the local analysis on a national scale. Find NBA Game Night on Locked On NBA on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast, and listen about how the Knicks seized a 3-1 lead over the Boston Celtics, and Boston is going to be without the services of Jason Tatum, who had 42, but went down with what appears to be an Achilles injury. So make sure to tune into them after you tune into Locked On Wizards. We appreciate your time, and we'll see you tomorrow.